Another policy they have, and they constantly break, is the fact that they claim that the society is run by voluntary donations. Now, all my life, I totally took it for granted that that's how it was. I used to boast about that to people I was trying to bring into the truth, and I said, our religion is not like any other religion. We do not solicit funds from anyone. We don't have a collection plate. We don't pressure people into tithing or any of that nonsense. All of the money is given completely voluntary. People just walk up and they say, how does that work? I said, well, people just walk up to the box at the back of the Kingdom Hall or at the assemblies or whatever, and they just put the money in, and that's it. No pressure, no bullying, in goes the money, and it's put towards things like building new Kingdom Halls, for the relief work, for printing literature, for maintaining sect overseers and district overseers because they obviously can't work and do their duties at the same time. So that's where your money goes. Now, I was disfellowshipped for about 3 years or 2 years, I can't remember now. And when I came back, one of the elders came up to me and said, you've been automatically put into my ministry group. And I was like, okay, that's, whatever. I have to be assigned somewhere. And for many, many, many months, I didn't go on a ministry. I didn't want to. I questioned the organisation much more since I was reinstated than before, mainly because all the promises of love, the example of the prodigal son, how he returned, how they say that all the angels applause when somebody comes back, all these promises never materialised. In fact, not much changed after I was reinstated. I was still treated with fear. People still shunned me. Not many people bothered to talk to me. People still looked at me cautiously like I was going to, burst into flames or something. And I just felt like, this is really rubbish. I've tried really hard to be reinstated and I've lived a good life and here I am again. And now you guys can talk to me and not one of you bothered. None of you have asked me how I am or we're glad to see you or anything. You're all skirting around me like I'm a snake. And so I began to question, is this really the truth? I don't know. This doesn't feel like it is to me. Now I feel like a bit resentful. Now I want to find out all the stuff they told me that I shouldn't look at. Now I'm going to find out the truth. And this brother, he took my mobile phone number from me, and he was like, oh, we'll use this in case there's any changes to any ministry stuff or whatever. And I was like, well, okay, I know really that the reason you want my number is because you want to use it to harass me when you know that I'm not on the field service. You want to phone me up and say, hey, how come you weren't at the service today? Are you coming out next week? We can pick you up. Hang on, let me just phone his sister and she'll come and get you. They kind of act like that a lot. I've had that before. But surprisingly, for weeks after I gave this brother my number, I didn't get anything. And I thought, this is great, for once. They're leaving me alone, which is great. No pressure there, good. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I received a long message, which I could tell was sort of like a copy and paste group message, but with my name at the top. And it said something about, hello, we're having a hospitality weekend this week after the ministry. And I thought, what the heck is that? Hospitality? I've never heard that term before. This is a made-up thing. And he said, we need you to donate £3 to this hospitality event. And the sister who is doing all the food and stuff is to take the pressure off her. And any money that is left over will go into a kitty for the next hospitality. So do you think that you could donate £3? Now, instantly, I was completely enraged. The fire in my belly just instantly burned up, and I thought, how dare they? They talk and talk about how their religion is completely different from the church's. I've been bragging to people all these years that we don't do this kind of thing, and here they are doing it. And the worst part of it was, I hadn't even been to that group yet. I hadn't even been on the ministry. I only met that elder for the first time that one time because he was a new elder who was appointed before I came back. So I didn't even know who this guy was. And he sent me that text asking me for money. After weeks and weeks of not even going on the ministry, he had the cheek. He didn't even invite me to the hospitality or explain what it was. He basically just said, we need £3 for food. Can you give us money? So I wrote a big text back saying, that frankly I was offended that the first ever correspondence I received from you by text was to ask me for money. That in itself is really shameful. And also I said, especially since I've never even been to your group, you're asking me to contribute to something that I haven't been to, that I'm not even likely to be at. You know, what kind of is this bribery to get me to come back on the ministry or what? What is this? And then I said, I've never ever heard of the term hospitality in my entire life. Is this from the governing body, or is this just a self-invented arrangement that you've made? And you have the cheek to charge people money for a self-invented arrangement. You can't do that. And lastly, the society claims that it does not solicit funds, but everything is a voluntary donation. In your text, you've said to me that you want a voluntary donation. Well, sorry to break it to you, but this is the definition of a voluntary donation by law. It is a self-motivated donation of money or whatever, property or anything that you like, that is given with complete free will by the giver at the time of their choosing, and it's an amount of their choosing. It's not given because of pressure or anything like that. It's completely self-motivated. That is a voluntary donation. Now I said, what you did to me was you solicited funds, which your religion says it doesn't do. And in fact, you can't do that because your religion has said you don't do it. But soliciting funds by law is when you ask a specific amount from your followers or from the public. You are actually going to people and asking them for money. And he wouldn't listen to me. In the end, he sent me a long text, and I thought, here we go. And he said, I'm sorry for obviously offending you, in quotation marks. And then he went on to justify that the hospitality arrangement was perfectly fine, and that, yeah, it was just like something I made up, but everybody enjoys it. He said, this is the part that disturbed me the most. He said, last month we had 40 to 50 people turn up, and everyone enjoyed it. And that concerned me, because I thought, what you're saying is, you've just broken your own law. And 40 or 50 people didn't even notice. They were also blinded by the fact that they ought to listen to everything elders say, that any arrangement made by them must be from Jehovah, that this is fine and approved, that they completely blindly, without even thinking about it or questioning it, went to it. That you solicited money from 40 or 50 people and not one person thought, this is wrong. How bad is that? And me, I haven't even been in meetings regularly for years. I was disfellowshipped, I've only just come back. And even I know that what you're doing is scripturally wrong. And it takes me to tell you this. Now, he wouldn't listen. When I texted him back again, I said, you're still not doing something that is good and right. By your own policy, you are breaking your own laws. And he ignored me. He wouldn't text back. So I thought, right, that's it now. I went on to jw.org. I typed in money. Straight away, up came an article saying religion and money. What's it all about? And in there, it, of course, predictably, goes on to bash other religions about how they force or pressure or solicit funds from their flock by collection plates, with tithing. And then it said, interestingly enough, by asking for money via letter. And then it said underneath, Jehovah's Witnesses stand out in this respect. All of the money that goes into the organisation is by voluntary donation only. Jehovah's Witnesses do not solicit funds from its members. And of course, it's like, we should be like, proud of this and whatever. And it's like an exemplary thing and whatever. And then I copied that article and I sent it to him. And underneath, I copied and pasted that section where it said that the Jehovah's Witnesses do not solicit money, and where it said that other religions do so by letter. And I said, don't you think that text messages or, by extension emails or whatever are the same as a letter? It's the principle of putting in writing a demand or a request for money. And you know what? After about 3 minutes after I sent that text with a link to that article, I had a group message come through saying something like, "Dear group, I just want to thank you all for your donations, but I have to basically backtrack and apologise for asking a specific amount of money. I shouldn't have done that. So from now on, if you want to donate, you can. No specific amount, whatever you feel like giving, if you want to. And thank you for your support of our arrangement, blah, 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 from brother so-and-so." And I felt triumphant. But at the same time, I felt disgusted because I thought, out of all those people who knew about this arrangement, not just the people that went, but the rest of the congregation and the body of elders, nobody even thought that what they were doing was scripturally wrong. That it took me, a person who had been disfellowshipped and had been really newly reinstated, it took me to tell them that what they were doing was scripturally wrong and therefore, by extension, displeasing to Jehovah. So they were doing an unchristian thing that they were telling other people is bad when other religions do it. But they were doing it, and the worst part was, nobody noticed that what they were doing was scripturally wrong. Nobody even blinked. And I thought that's the worrying part, because that means what else are they doing that's wrong? How many other congregations are soliciting funds from their followers and nobody's even twigged that what they're doing is wrong? Or if they feel like maybe it is, they're too afraid to even to bring it up or to say to the elder, "Is this right? Are we allowed to do this? Are you breaking the law?" Because of course the culture of don't ask questions and don't challenge is very firmly drilled into Jehovah's Witnesses. And it took someone like me, who they probably view as a troublemaker, to come up and say, what you're doing is wrong. And even when I said that, they didn't make any changes at all until I linked them the article from their own website. And once it was in print, they couldn't deny it. And that ex-elder, that ex-Bethelite who I've mentioned before, he said that is the procedure when it comes to elders' meetings and disagreements within the elders. The basic procedure is, if you have elders who are arguing about a certain topic, if one elder can produce in print evidence to support his view, then by their policy, all the other elders must concede. They have to abandon their argument and say, okay, we submit, because it's in print. And that really seems to work, because it had such an impact on the other elders that I was talking to, that the moment I submitted stuff in print, he immediately gave in, straight away. Because it was almost like, oh no, we have actually printed that in our own publications, therefore, if I argue against it, I'm arguing against the society, and we can't do that. So I have to give in, without argument. And I messaged him afterwards because, my mother, who I told this to, she said, oh, make sure that you're not kind of bitter about it, don't, gloat. So I sent him a message back, a nice one, saying something like, thank you for, listening to me. It's very much appreciated. And he never texts back. And I just thought, I don't like this. How many more congregations are breaking the rules? How many more witnesses are so brainwashed that they are not even realizing that this is happening in front of their very eyes? And this is the problem. Because if I had stood up in front of everybody and said that what you're doing is wrong, I would immediately be met with hostile stares, with, sit down and be quiet. What are you making trouble for? How dare you speak against the elders? Even though what I'm saying is completely true. And we are told to be Christians. The word Christian means to be Christ-like. We say that we follow in the footsteps of Jesus himself. Jesus is the person we model ourselves after. Now, Jesus always stood up for the right thing, no matter who he was up against, no matter the circumstances. Jesus always stood up and said, this is the truth, this is what is right. Jesus was not afraid of making waves. For goodness sake, he kicked people out of the temple for being dishonest and for, cheating people out of money when it came to swapping money over and stuff like that, and the money lenders. He kicked them out. He made a whip of ropes and he drove all their animals and whatever out of the temple, and he made a massive scene. He didn't care. The apostles were probably cringing, thinking, oh, Jesus, why didn't you just, be like quiet? Why didn't you just try to reason with them? But Jesus knew that in certain circumstances you have to stand up and make a firm stand and say, no, we're not taking this nonsense anymore. I'm putting my foot down. I'm getting rid of this right now. And when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses, they're not encouraged to do that at all. They're told to be mild and peaceable, which, okay, is great. I mean, of course you should be that way. But Jesus Christ wasn't always that way. He knew when it was appropriate to really stand up and fight against things that are false. And Jehovah's Witnesses are told that accusations or lies or whatever only come from the world, not from within the congregation. The elders aren't capable of telling lies or preaching falsehoods. That only occurs within false religions and in the world. So Jehovah's Witnesses don't really know how to handle it when someone within the congregation, like an elder, is preaching stuff that instinctively they know is wrong. In fact, they're told to leave it in God's hands. They're told that Jehovah will sort out that elder. Our duty is merely to obey. Jehovah likes it better if we obey, even if we know it's wrong, because Jehovah likes our obedience much more than he likes sticking up for right and wrong. But that's not true. I thought Jehovah was a God of justice and about right and wrong and about keeping pure and holy when it comes to sticking to his worship, not about, we'll just be obedient then and having blind faith. That's what it is at the end of the day. It's blind faith. You can't say that Jehovah's Witnesses don't have blind faith, but at the same time say, well, we never question anything, and even if we know it's wrong, we do it anyway. That is blind. That is a definition of blind faith. So, what is true then? Is the Jehovah's Witness, the Watchtower and Bible Tract Society, that organisation, is it the true religion or is it a false one? If they can identify false religions by the fact that their members solicit funds, by the fact that their leaders tell lies and mislead congregations, by the fact that their members are brainwashed and are like sheep without a shepherd, they just follow after the crowd. They just do what they're told. They never really question. They don't really understand what they believe in. They don't really understand why they're told to do things or not. They just do what they're told. They're not encouraged to question. Well, if that is in fact true, and we can use these things to discredit an entire religion based on only one of those things, what can we say about the Jehovah's Witnesses? Well, I'll leave you to discuss that and to come to a conclusion on your own. But it's definitely worth thinking about. And, excuse me, it's cold season. It's, oh, please, excuse me. It's definitely worth thinking about. Anyway, thank you for listening to this podcast, and I hope you tune in again, and please keep on listening and critically thinking. Peace out.